Hey, Mr. Chamberlain's class, how's it going? My name is Dylan Longmore. I'm a University of Regina education student. I'm coming to school here to become a teacher and work in an elementary school to work with students just like you guys. I've been assigned to work with you for one of my courses, and so far I'm really looking forward to it. Your teacher, Mr. Chamberlain, had told me that you guys had just finished reading the book Hatchet by Gary Paulsen, and we thought that maybe a good way to introduce myself to you guys would be for you to ask me questions about Canada, since that's where the story takes place. So I've got all your questions written down here, and I'll try my best to answer them. Keep in mind, Canada is a huge place, and you guys asked really good questions, but I might not be an expert in all those areas, but I'll do my best. So the first question was by Jasmine, and she asked, do you have really bad storms in Canada? That's a great question, Jasmine. We do have really bad storms in Canada. Just depends on where in Canada you live. Will determine what kind of storms you have to face. Where I live, in the middle of Canada, the prairies, in the summer we have to worry about tornadoes, and in the winter we have to worry about snowstorms and blizzards. I remember one summer in 2011 I was camping, and we slept through a tornado pretty much. It's a pretty scary experience. This is the camping area where we were. It's called Emma Lake, just a few hours from Regina, and this terrible storm came through the night and uprooted trees and tipped them over. You can see they're almost hitting the tent that we were sleeping in. Across the site, trailers were smashed by these trees. Extensive damage, and you know, we heard it in the night and we had panicked, and we didn't know if we should go out or stay in our tent, and we decided just to stay in our tent, which was scary because, you know, the trees were super close to hitting our, landing on our tents where we were sleeping. So it's one of those situations where it's really tough to know what the best thing to do is, and we were just really lucky to get out of there without ever, you know, getting hurt. And Jasmine, your second question was, has anyone gotten attacked by a moose? I haven't heard any stories personally, but I'm sure that it definitely has happened. Moose are very big animals. They can be very dangerous, very territorial. That means that if you're in their space and they think that you're going to hurt them, they'll charge you. They'll do what they have to do to get you out of there. They're not out to eat you, or not that they would eat you, but they're not out to really hurt you. They're out to get you away from them. They just want to make sure that they're safe, that their calves are safe. Actually, I was visiting Alberta. I had family living there, and I was out walking in the woods just by myself for a bit, and I saw an elk, and I was young at the time, and I didn't really know, you know, much about the animals, and so I just wanted to get in there for a picture. Now that's a picture of an elk there. As you can see, it's really big antlers, looks just like a moose, and what it did is it put its head down and it chased me. I had to run and jump off a ledge, and I was okay, but I was a little shook up after that. And so I'd imagine that an encounter with a moose would be just like that. They'd put their head down, they would charge at you, and you know, if you didn't get out of their space, then you might get trampled, you might get hit, and it wouldn't be pretty. So if you ever come to Canada, try to avoid the moose. Madison, you asked, do people get lost in the Canadian wilderness? Yep, for sure. Just you guys have the same kind of wilderness down there in the States, you know, lots of forests, lots of hills, mountains, and if people aren't careful, they can definitely get lost. In Canada, you know, the people that are at most risk to get lost are probably kids. Kids don't plan, you know, they don't have all the information, all the knowledge that they need to go out on trips like that, to go out on hikes, and if they're not careful and they don't think about where they're going, they can very easily get lost. And it's not just kids though, adults do the same thing. Adults go out and they're not quite prepared, and they don't take out maybe a GPS, they won't take out a compass, and they're a little bit overconfident about the area, and they end up making some wrong choices and not knowing how to get back home. Katie, you asked, is there a lot of moose in Canada? Yeah, there is definitely a lot of moose in Canada. And we have to watch for them lots on our highways. You'll always see that sign to let you know that moose might be crossing. Every year almost it seems like a moose gets into our city of Regina. That's one by our airport. It eventually had to get tranquilized. You can see the dart in it there. They'll just tranquilize them, and then conservation officers come and relocate them. So yeah, I would definitely say that there's lots of moose in Canada, and you are going to see them, sooner or later, especially if you spend a lot of time up here. And Katie, your second question was, are there a lot of bear attacks in Canada? No, I don't think there is. We have 3 types of bears in Canada. We have black bears, which live in Saskatchewan, the province I live in. And we've got brown bears or grizzly bears, which live out in Alberta and British Columbia. And we have polar bears, which live up north, closer to the Arctic Circle, where it's really cold. They can all be very dangerous, but the thing about bears is they want to avoid us. So if you're out walking and they can hear you, chances are they're going to stay away from you. The most likely you are to have a bear attack you is when you sneak up on them and they can't hear you, and then all of a sudden they're surprised and they get caught off guard. I think the United States actually has probably more bear attacks than we do. I remember hearing quite a few stories in the past years, especially out of Montana, about people going missing and then later on finding their remains maybe and discovering evidence that it was probably a bear attack. They're pretty rare in the U.S., and I think they're even more rare here though. Now Lauren asked, and it's similar to Katie's last question there, what kind of animals are in Canada? It's a good question, Lauren, but it's really hard to answer because just like the United States of America, there's so many different kinds of animals. Like I just mentioned, there's the 3 different kinds of bears. So we've got black bears, brown bears, and polar bears. We have a lot of coyotes here in Saskatchewan. I think you probably have some down there too. They're smaller than wolves, but you can always hear them howling out in the fields at night here. We have wolves, not all over Canada, probably in northern Saskatchewan, and further up north is where they're most prominent here. We have cougars or mountain lions. You guys might know them as big cats, rarely seen because they're nocturnal. They come out at night mostly. We have elk, we have moose, we have deer, and then we have lots of different kinds of birds. We have Canadian geese, we have different kinds of owls, different kinds of hawks. So it's pretty diverse. I bet you a lot of the animals that we have here though are also in the United States. Second question Lauren asked is, what is it like to be lost in the woods in Canada? Thankfully, Lauren, I don't know what it's like to be lost in the woods in Canada. I've been lucky enough to avoid that. I can imagine though that it would be extremely scary. Depending on the time of year that you're lost, it would probably be very cold and confusing. You wouldn't know what to do because the question always is, do you go and try to find your way out or do you stay put? They often say that you're supposed to stay put, but sometimes people might panic and go wandering off trying to find their way, and then they just end up more lost. I went on a camp actually where we were put in the woods with just a compass, and that's how we had to find our way out. And it wasn't scary because we were confident that we could get out, but you can imagine if you didn't have that compass that you'd be in quite a bit of trouble. So that's why it's always important to be ready, be prepared when you go on those kinds of trips, camping or hiking. Now Brianna, you asked, do you think somebody could live in the Canadian wilderness for a year with just the clothes they are wearing and a hatchet? Great question, Brianna, obviously inspired by the novel. Yes, I do think that some people could survive like that. Most people, like you or me, unless you, Brianna, are some sort of wilderness expert, I don't think we could. Canada, the environment is too harsh. The weather, the elements, the cold is unbearable most of the time. Unless you know how to make yourself a proper shelter, unless you know how to find food, unless you know where to get safe water to drink, unless you can make fire out of, you know, the proper kinds of wood or the proper kinds of stone, you're going to be in a lot of trouble. There are guys though, like Bear Grylls. He's a British guy, and he has this show that's called Man vs. Wild, where he goes into the woods and he teaches you how to survive. Yeah, he shows you the skills. There's also a guy named Les Stroud. He's Canadian actually, and he has a show. It's just like Man vs. Wild. It's called Survivor Man, and he goes to all these different places, and he shows you the different things you need to know to stay alive in these harsh environments. Check them out if you haven't already. Really interesting shows. Now, Hoochie, I'm sorry, I hope I said that right, asks, what animals are hunted in Canada? In Saskatchewan, I know that white-tailed deer, moose, black bear, geese, and ducks are probably the most popular animals for hunting. Now, those are not animals that can be hunted all the time on any land that you choose. You need to have a hunting license. Then you need to get a permit for which specific animals you want to hunt. Animals like a moose, they have kind of a lottery. So what you do is you put your name into a draw, and if you're lucky enough, they'll pull your name out, and then you'll be able to hunt moose for a short amount of time. They do that just so populations don't get too low with people hunting them. Now, I'm not sure about other parts of Canada. I don't think hunting is as popular, maybe out in British Columbia or in the Maritimes like Newfoundland, Nova Scotia. There I know that fishing is way more important to them. Yeah, and sorry, Hoochie, you also asked, what foods do Canadians eat? That's a great question. A lot of our food is probably similar to American food. In Saskatchewan, I know that Saskatchewan people pride themselves in eating Ukrainian foods, so that would be like pierogies, sausage, cabbage rolls, because a long time ago a great percentage of our population was from Ukraine. But we eat a lot of agricultural foods, so we have a lot of farms here, people that raise cows, so beef, pigs, so pork, chicken, poultry, a lot of vegetables, a lot of grains like bread, pasta, stuff like that. But you know what? We also like our burger places. We like our pizza. We like our subs, and we also really like foreign or ethnic foods. We like Chinese food. We like African food, Indian food. So I think it'd probably be pretty similar, with a few differences. I know I have cousins who live in South Dakota, and they were amazed when they came here at all the different flavors of chicken wings that we have, because it's a big thing here to get either salt and pepper, honey garlic, teriyaki, buffalo, all these different kinds of flavors, but that might not be everywhere in the United States. Now, I was told that there was just also a number of general questions regarding our weather. Our weather is extremely cold, and our winter is extremely cold, and we get a lot of snow. This is my front yard here. You can just see how high that snow level is. This is this year, actually. That's the top of my garage. That's just the snow that's settled on top, really thick. And then that's just a tree in my backyard, so tons of snow. Our summers, though, can actually get really warm and nice. We can get up to plus 30 degrees Celsius. I'm not sure what that is in Fahrenheit. Not quite as warm as, like, I was down in Austin, Texas in the summer last year, and it was extremely hot. So we don't get that warm, but we can get some pretty nice sun in there. People call Saskatchewan the land of extremes. We get extremely warm and extremely cold, just over a matter of months. So yeah, thanks so much for the questions, you guys. A lot of fun for me to answer them, to look back on my own experiences and see if I have the knowledge to answer them. I think I did okay, but you guys let me know if there's more that you want to know. Please ask me. I would love to answer more questions that you might have about Saskatchewan or about Canada in general. So keep them coming, and I look forward to interacting with you guys more as the year goes on. All right, take care.